Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Scott Luton, Greg White, and Kevin L. Jackson here with you on Supply Chain. Now, welcome to
Hello.
today's live stream. Gregory, how we doing?
Well, other than being a little bit unshaven, I'm, I'm doing pretty well. All things
Uh,
considered, the news about SVB Friday hit me personally and a lot of
Mm,
the people that I do
mm.
business with pretty directly. So I didn't spend a lot of time shaving this weekend, though I did happen to get to an early St. Patrick's Day parade. So did spend a little time.
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we're going to talk about what you mentioned on the front end
Yeah.
in about 10 minutes here and get some of you and Kevin's take. Kevin,
Yeah.
how you doing today?
Well, I'm apprehensive. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I live in on the East Coast, the Washington D.C. area. And everybody went through Sunday where we lost that hour of sleep with the clocks jumping forward, and now I got to jump on a plane tomorrow and fly out to the West Coast to San Francisco. So my circadian rhythm is going to be, as they say in the military, AFU, baby.
Oh, well, I like that, and I also like how you pronounced the city where the Giants and the Niners play, San Francisco, with emphasis on that last syllable. Well, Greg and Kevin, great to have you back. Greg, of course, Kevin joins us every second Tuesday of the month for a digital transformers version of the Supply Chain Buzz. And as if that's not great enough to have Kevin with us, we've got a special guest joining in about 12:25 today, as Michael Pytel with FulFilld is going to be joining us as well. So, hey, beyond Greg and Kevin and Michael's POV and expertise, we want to hear yours. So I see a few folks already in the comments. We're going to say hello in just a moment. Okay, so Greg and Kevin, before we get to work, I want to do some programming notes. We're going to say hello to a few folks, and then we've got a lot of stuff to get into today that I think folks are going to find very informational and hopefully inspirational. We'll see.
Scott,
Yes, sir.
we only have a 5-pound bag. Why you keep
Right.
bringing 10 pounds?
It's in my nature, man. It is in my nature. Everything we can fit in that 5-pound bag. It's the opposite of shrinkflation, right, Greg? It's the opposite.
Yeah, that's right. On that point, Scott,
Yeah.
I discovered that Budweiser long necks are now only 11 ounces.
Oh, they're cutting back.
Man, they really snuck that 12th ounce out of there, huh?
Yeah, the bottle is just slightly smaller.
It's trying to help you protect your girlish figure there.
Yeah. I just made it. I just drank 12, so it would.
There we go.
Made it up.
Yeah.
It's all about leveling up. So anyway, so let's share a couple of quick opportunities for folks. So first off, we're really excited about this webinar coming up March 21st. Who's not creating content these days, right? Well, we're going to be offering up 5 tips for creating effective digital content. Greg and I are bringing in a couple of friends. Y'all may know them. I know Kevin does. Yes. Ursula Ringham with SAP, and the one and only Brandy Boatner with IBM. Brandy, who hosts a wonderful podcast, a radio show she's going to talk more about. But Kevin, Brandy is quite the rock and roll star, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I got the opportunity to hang out with her at the Wilmington up in Wimbledon, up in New York earlier this year. I guess it was this year. That was fun. Or maybe it was last year. Yeah. But that was fun. We had out on the lawn there by Brooklyn Bridge, watching on the big screen, the Wimbledon.
Well, I saw lots of content from that, and it was very entertaining, engaging, educational. A lot of stuff we're getting after on this March 21st webinar. So, Greg, looking forward to that one. And then, secondly, I want to share with folks. So, this was with that said over the weekend. So, Greg, we need to sit down and talk about this one day. Instant replay in the NFL, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs, your team, the reigning world champions, but we came up with we talked about instant replay and maybe applying instant replay to the global business space. And we were like, hey, maybe it should be continuous pre-play, right? Kind of a little play on giving folks information they need. Greg, your thoughts, whether it's instant replay or continuous pre-play or the Chiefs.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I love this phrase. I heard once somebody say, hindsight is 50-50, which may be more accurate than 2020. And if you think about the way we talk about pre-play or what should we say, premonition,
there you go,
forecasting and that sort of thing, we use hindsight to try and gauge what the future will be. So in business, it's a pretty different experience now. To football,
using hindsight to gain foresight, and we found out, during the pandemic, that don't work, baby. In supply chain, that don't work.
That's right. What is it they say? Past performance is no indication of future value, right?
Yes.
Now on the NFL field, I would say yes, instant. And when I say instant replay could be used to challenge certain calls, like calls where it's called roughing the passer, when in fact, by the time the passer hits the ground, he's no longer the ball carrier and the ball has already been turned over to the defense, Chris Jones and Derek Clark. So,
more AI and instant replay.
Yes, that's right. Well, and as Greg and Kevin are illustrating, we had a lot of fun with this notion of instant replay within business. And look, we really put it out there to hopefully inspire some conversations and get y'all's take. So do that. Check that out. We also dropped a link in the chat. We publish, with that said, just about every Saturday morning, LinkedIn newsletter, and come on and join about 20,393 of your best friends as we dive into those conversations. 94. Thanks, Kevin. All right.
You got a ticker. Kevin, we need a ticker in the corner.
Yes, we do.
Right.
Hey, building that has been certainly a passionate project, the whole team here, because we launched that probably, Greg, 4 months ago, maybe? Something like that.
It doesn't seem like that long, but I think it has been, yeah. And it has grown so fast, right?
That's right. We've gotten a ton of feedback. So y'all join in and let us know what you'd like to see. But most importantly, join in the conversation. All right. So Kevin and Greg, we're going to say hello to a few folks, and we're going to dive into a couple of big stories and segments. See, Xanabu tuning in via LinkedIn from Kenya. Great to see you here today. John Perry, one of our faves. John, hopefully you brought that great sense of humor today. One of our favorites here around on the buzz. Angela, tuned in from North Carolina via LinkedIn. Great to see you, Angela. Demaine Harris from Metro Detroit. I love that.
Yeah.
Via LinkedIn. Yeah, let us know what part of the reinvigorated city of Detroit that you are hailing from. Joseph, guys are great. Love last week's webinar, and you drew me back in. Joseph, man, I appreciate that.
I thought I was out. They pulled me back in.
Well, Joseph, thank you for the feedback. We certainly we're very grateful for lots and lots of feedback. Antonio from Detroit as well. Okay,
yeah, man.
Detroit is in the house.
Last night I saw this show about Detroit son Eminem.
Oh, you saw Eminem's backstory, huh?
Yeah. That was pretty enlightening.
Okay. All right. We'll have to check that out. Greg is tuned in from Wisconsin. 0 inches of snow. No, 10 inches of snow. 10. Yeah. 10 inches of snow. My eyes are messing with me. And he says, go Marquette. Hey, everybody is filling out their brackets right now. I know our team is. We got an internal challenge. But Greg, great to have you back as always. And hey, moms, good morning. Leah Luton from Aiken, South Carolina. Hello.
Hey, Leah. Thank you. What a shout out. I like that.
Yeah, everybody's a big fan of Greg and Kevin. So great to have mom as part of the conversation. Okay.
You're still paying her, right?
Yeah, she gets that.
Okay.
She's an ambassador, a paid ambassador. I should put that out there, right, Greg? So
every Mother's Day she gets paid.
All right, folks. Well, you came to the right place here today. Supply Chain Buzz takes place every Monday at 12 noon Eastern time. Got a jam up episode. We got 2 big things we're gonna dive into with Greg and Kevin, and then we got our special guest Michael Pytel with FulFilld joining us about 12:25. So let's start with this. Let's get to work here. So Greg, of course, really kidding aside, some really tough news and developments that have been coming out in the last 3 or 4 days. So, SVP, Silicon Valley Bank, the second biggest bank to ever go under, and then the third biggest in Signature followed that. So rather than dive into the story, folks can find that across different headlines. I'd rather dial it in with your expertise. As you mentioned on the front end, I mean, this has been your space for no more than 2 decades, right? That's our standing rule. But you've got a unique purview on this situation because of the different angles and different sectors and positions you've been in as a fellow founder, but also as an investor, experience in the P space and a lot more. So tell us, what would your advice to fellow founders be when it comes to navigating these cash flow pitfalls, I'll call
them? First of all, I think a little bit of backstory is appropriate here because before Friday or Thursday, almost no one had heard of Silicon Valley Bank if you weren't in the tech space. The 16th biggest bank in the country, still huge, $209 billion in assets under management, 90% of which was not insured because of the size of accounts. So this is the bank that, and the reason that, Scott, we need to talk about this, right, is this is the bank that founders and venture capitalists and private equity firms put their money into. 250,000 insured, but often tens of millions or even billions of dollars in accounts at this bank. And so many companies were highly exposed when the bank went under. It actually was taken over by the FDIC. They walk in, they tell everyone you're fired, they shut the doors and literally chain lock them in so many cases.
Wow.
And the bank literally goes away. It goes away virtually instantaneously. The FDIC creates another bank into which everyone's assets are moved. That's the insured bank. And you're up to 250,000, your money is insured. And we saw a lot of rhetoric over the weekend, especially politicians and bureaucrats. Of course, they have to be heard. They have to feel seen and be seen. And a lot of them said, we're not going to backstop the bank. Well, of course, we never backstop the bank. We backstop the depositors. So I think that's the thing we have to recognize here. Janet Yellen literally did nothing. The FDIC did all this work based on the structure that is in place. And so far, it looks like all deposits will be secured and restored, and I believe have been restored as of today from the reserves that the FDIC has. But it did, let's think about what day it is, right? It is March 13th, 2 days from March 15th. Most companies pay on a twice monthly schedule. So on Friday, tens of thousands of companies found out they won't be able to make payroll on Monday, right? Because they have to send it to the bank or, get it scheduled to be paid and all that sort of thing. So that creates quite the crisis. Will we ever get our money back? Creates quite the crisis, right? How could this happen? I mean, if you've been following any of this on the news or through the multiple phone calls that I've gotten over the weekend, then you understand the strain that this puts on the market. There's lots of speculation as to whether other banks will go down. Signature Bank did go down. Other banks got backstopped. First Republic, which is a big competitor, relatively big competitor of SVB, got money from JP Morgan. SVB UK got bought for £1, not £1 of anything, just one right. Great Britain pound by HSBC. And that's if SVB in the States sells, that's what it'll sell for. But in the meantime, these companies had an incredible liquidity crisis, right? Tens of millions or even billions of dollars just disappeared overnight. Fortunately, that's been taken care of. But one lesson we can learn here from these banks is don't put yourself in a cash flow crisis. And I say that to founders, to businesses, whether you're in technology or not, and to banks, because we will see more bank failures. It's inevitable. This is not a singular effect. There's already been a bank in India, 116-year-old bank, that will probably go out of business on the back of SVB. But don't put yourself in a liquidity crisis. And part of the problem is that so many companies in the tech space have been betting on really, really risky things because they got this huge influx of cash. And they thought, well, we can't deploy all this to improve the company all at once. So in the meantime, let's invest it. Let's invest it in things like bonds and crypto. God help you if you've done that. And other things that they've been trying to make extra money on, or they've tied up their money in CDs or other things that have been growing interest as interest has gotten so much higher, right? That both the interest that we pay and the interest that we can receive on deposits.
Yeah.
So focus on what you're good at. Put your money into what your business is, and recognize that your business is building software or building widgets, right? Or employing labor or delivering services or whatever it is, moving trucks, that sort of thing. Put your money into something that you know and that you can control to avoid this kind of liquidity crisis. That's probably the best advice that I can give. The other is, Scott, we were just talking about hindsight is 50-50 or 20-20 or whatever the hell you want to call it. The hindsight, as we know, is not necessarily a gauge of the future. And for 13 years, we've been on this great bull run of economy where money was essentially free. Interest rates were almost zero.
Yeah.
And as rates started to increase, people didn't change their understanding of their business model. They were blind to this. And if you go to my commentary, I go into a little bit more detail on that. But also recognize when the world is changing. Don't see everything that doesn't affirm your current belief as a blip, right? Or as a glitch in the matrix or whatever. Recognize that things could be changing and that it could be an accumulation of issues like this. Silicon Valley Bank, every bank should have seen this coming.
Yeah.
Right. And it took an unbelievable amount of hubris, gluttony, greed, not just greed and avarice, which by the way is redundant. They didn't need to say both in the title, but that sells. And they got me to use that article. And just sloth, thinking we can just sit back here and make money because we've been doing it for 13 years. Well, the game has changed. And it's time to recognize that. It's way past time to recognize that. And I encourage companies to get ahead of that. Look around corners. Look for problems, not away from problems. Look at changes and recognize that they could be foundational changes to the environment that you're playing in, right? It's like if you start a football game on a sunny day and it suddenly starts snowing, or in the old Chicago Bears game, it gets so foggy that you can't see a pass thrown or coming at you. You have to change how you play the game when things change that dramatically.
Greg, well said, and really enjoyed. Maybe the team can drop the link to your must-see POV, your supply chain commentary every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Kevin, I want to get your thoughts here, but one of the things I heard from Greg is stick to your strengths. Don't act like T. Rowe Price if you're T. Rowe Payne or a software founder. Kevin, your thoughts here.
Well, I mean, the first thing, and I agree with everything that Greg said, but foundational to that, what he said is that business is about using assets, tangible and intangible, but assets, things that have value, to deliver value to society. Business isn't about trying to leverage something that has no value. And that brings up like the difference between cryptocurrency, which many cryptocurrencies, there are no underlying assets.
Right.
And crypto securities, where there are actual assets that support the crypto security. And the thing that if you're running a business like SVB, they took their customers' money and invested it in the bond market. But when the bond market was losing and they were losing in the crypto as well, management didn't change anything. They just sat there. It was just a lack of management taking care of doing their job, their fiduciary responsibilities. All right. And that's just wrong. That's just being a crook. That's just not doing your job. you know. And I feel for companies that may get, have a liquidity crisis because of things that are outside of their control.
Right.
But this wasn't outside their control. This was,
Right. This is a self-inflicted wound, Kevin.
Yeah. So,
all right.
no
So
pity here. Sorry.
Yeah. Greg and Kevin, I appreciate both of y'all's perspective here. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about this in the shows to come. But for the sake of today's show, we got about 5-6 minutes before we bring in our guest. And I want to get closer to what we usually touch on all the time, which is global supply chain. And Kevin, you brought this article today where we talk about, hey, don't start and stop with just robotics when it comes to really going after all that digital transformation offers. So tell us more here, Kevin.
Well, robots are a part of digital transformation, right? And when you do deploy robots, you also need to look at your own business processes, and you use robotic process automation. But many enterprises have actually encountered roadblocks when they use RPA, and they found it was very lacking and they couldn't achieve all of the benefits of digital transformation. And reasons for that is because a lot of times RPA kind of falls short when it comes to execution, with projects taking 9-10 months to get deployed. RPAs really don't address the front end user interface, okay? And it doesn't define new workflows. You, as the owner of the business that know the business supposedly, need to redefine the workflows. And RPA has limited ability to really automate processes end to end, okay? And they can break. So you have to do your job in monitoring. I mean, humans are important, even in robotic process automation.
Right.
Okay. And so when you are trying to govern these robots across BART farms, it becomes very challenging, especially when the enterprises are using bots from multiple vendors to do different things. So what that means is that you really have to be intelligent about your automation. And that requires the orchestration of automation technologies like process mapping. And you need to leverage intelligent technology like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and computer vision. And finally, you need a solid next-gen IT infrastructure that's built on top of cloud with applications that run in containers on composable infrastructures. Now, if you don't understand that last sentence, you're going to fail in digital transformation. And that's really what's happening out there. People aren't, they don't understand the foundation of digital transformation.
All right. So, Greg, I'm going to get you to chime in really quickly here. But one of the things I heard here from Kevin is orchestration, right? Take advantage of robots and everything that digital transformation offers, but you got to have a Mozart or a Lydia Tarr involved to make it to maestro it all. Greg, your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, I think digital transformation isn't about digital at all, as Kevin has often told us, right? I mean, this is one thing I've learned from the master over the last several years is it's not about digital at all. To his point, it's about enabling or replacing activities that humans are doing or used to do or shouldn't do, right? It's those dark, dirty, dangerous, and dull jobs. It's things like that. But, one thing that you said about the implementations, I think a couple things need to change. One, we need to realize that AI built AI. Actual intelligence builds artificial intelligence. And for artificial intelligence to become educated, to become intelligence, it has to ingest actual intelligence, which comes from humans and the actions that they've done or the outcomes they desire in a process, the things that they know about the data or the process or the goals. And so it's critical that we make that link between people. And the other is to recognize that, I say this all the time, real digital transformation, it isn't a spreadsheet. It isn't even RPA. I mean, RPA, first of all, it stuns me, Kevin, that it could take 9 months to do that. Most of that could be done. Most RPA could be done with a keystroke recorder and some, and some very simple logic. It did an invoice arrive? Yes. Check this field, that field, the other field, whatever, right? So there's not a lot of.
That's what it's designed for.
Right. There's not a lot of science in RPA. So it is ground level digital transformation at best. A lot of what, Kevin, you talk about, it is AI, it is blockchain, it is transformational and scientific. It is doing things as humans would do them with much greater speed, much greater accuracy, right? And much less human intervention or repetitive motion.
Errors. Much less human errors.
Yeah.
Right. And it is really, it really is transformational to the business. This is RPA is kind of like the spreadsheet of automation, if you want to think of it that way. It's really cool, and it does great stuff, but it's not the top of the heap. And I think we need to think about what digital transformation, first of all, is for. It is for an outcome. And if you start with that outcome and work your way backwards, sure, you'll do some RPA, probably do some AI, may even do some blockchain or other things, right? Mm-hmm. But the key is to focus on how it enables people to either do a job more effectively, like assistive robots do, or to not do a job that humans are not fit for, that requires greater accuracy or danger or repetitive motion that we don't want humans to have to be involved in.
Right.
Yep. All right. We got to leave it there. Thank you, Greg and Kevin. Always love talking digital transformation with Kevin L. Jackson. But hey, we got a great second half of the show here. We got a very special guest joining us, Greg and Kevin. With no further ado, I want to bring him right on in. Michael Pytel, Chief Technology Officer with FulFilld. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Hey, everybody. Happy Monday from the high plains of Denver, Colorado.
Right.
Colorado.
Is it 70 or snowing, Michael?
I wish you. Wait a second. It just changed.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't ruin our St. Patty's Day plans on Friday.
Well, I bet you were chomping at the bit through the first half of the show to jump right in, because we were talking. We had a couple of really neat pre-show conversations, but let's I was going to say, let's get to the important stuff. Right before we get to a couple of stories that you brought us, Michael, that we're going to dive into, let's celebrate something. So yesterday was National Girl Scout Day, right? It coincides with the founding date of the organization. It's helped so many folks become business leaders and help so many folks on the journey. But we love talking food here at Supply Chain Now. For a lot of us, it is Girl Scout cookie season as well. So, Michael, fun warm-up question here. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
That's amazing. And I love when they run the Girl Scouts run those specials, like you buy 3, you get the 4th free. So for me, it's the ones with the coconut. It's the Samoas, I think they're called, or samosas.
Yeah, I think that's right.
With the coconut. Oh, okay. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's at the bottom of my list, but that's okay. That's okay. Different strokes, different folks. Kevin, your favorite cookie? Girl Scout cookie?
Nothing but shortbread, baby.
Okay.
Oh, that's a very simple but elegant approach.
Yes,
I like
simple but elegant. I like that, Greg. All right, Greg.
Thin Mints, frozen, 100%.
Same.
Frozen. Yeah, put them in the freezer, man. It's game changing.
We've talked. Greg, I think we've talked about this best practice each year for the last 4 years.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes. So we got to shout from the mountaintops more and help folks out there. But Thin Mints, frozen a little bit, man, they are delightful. So and they get today's blue ribbon. All right, we got.
No.
Man, I didn't.
When we have
so
Armageddon,
you're saying Thin Mints frozen as well.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Look, when we
Yeah.
have Armageddon, those shortbreads are going to be right there for me. Right? I'm going to eat my shortbreads, and you guys are going to be wondering about your melted,
Okay.
chocolate
Man.
Well,
and
there's going to
thin
be
mints.
plenty of Samoas left over, Kevin, because
Yes.
I've already told my entire family if coconut was the last food on earth, I would starve to death.
Oh, Michael. Fighting words. All right. Well,
That's great.
I'm
thank
gonna
you.
leave all those for you, Michael.
That's great.
You've got all the supply in the world. Okay. Thank you all for playing along. And folks in the chat, y'all let us know. Where have we gone wrong? Catherine says, I don't think I've ever heard someone say shortbread is their favorite. Hey,
All right, well, let's hear hers.
Secret.
Hear
All
Catherine's
you
favorite.
guys, don't eat no shortbreads, okay? You don't want them. They're nasty,
Do you drink those? Do you eat those with do you drink tea with that, Kevin?
Oh, Michael.
Oh,
no. Jack Daniels go well with shortbread.
You never know when you talk about Girl Scout cookies, you never know where the conversation goes. So thank y'all all for playing along. Dive into kidding aside, we got a lot of stuff to get into here with Michael. Michael, great to have you here from beautiful Denver, Colorado. Let's talk. For starters, I want to talk about picking back up on this article here from our friends at Wall Street Journal, Robotic Limitations. Kevin and Greg were kind of alluding to this on the last segment of the conversation. Robotic limitations are holding back some efforts to fully automate fulfillment centers. So, Michael, tell us more here.
Well, as a child of the 80s when movies were great, Oscars last night, and you see all these robot movies. I love robots. Now, I think the real world is starting to set in, though, in that there's just a lot of different products to move out there. And until a robot can develop its opposable thumbs and like a human being, we're just going to have a hard time deploying these robots fully in a warehouse to have that dark warehouse. Robots are, in my mind, supportive to human beings. They're additive. They are going to replace some of our activities, but not all of our activities. So I think it's super important. And I think one thing that this article highlights is these technologies are going to coexist with human beings in the future, not necessarily replace us.
Yeah.
Right.
Very nicely said, Michael. That falls right in line, I think, Greg, to what we have chatted about quite for years now. But Greg, your thoughts around what Michael just shared, as well as this article here from the Wall Street Journal about some of the limitations when it comes to robotic technologies.
Yeah, well, I've seen dark warehouses before, and as it turns out, it still takes a human even just to sweep the floor. So, so they're not completely dark. But I think we have to think of things in terms of layers, right? There are aspects of a business that can be completely dark. I think of one of my favorite wine and spirits warehouse that I went to in Norway once, where one section was completely automated. This was easily 10 years ago. Yeah, easily 10 years ago.
Wow.
But that was, for instance, that was entire pallets being shipped, right? All the pallets were scanned. They were literally in a dark section. I guess they were just trying to make the point by leaving the lights out. They were literally in a dark section, and they were robotically selected and placed on a conveyor, and then conveyed down to a truck, robotically placed on the truck. But you have to juxtapose that with, for instance, vintage wines, which they are not going to let a robot anywhere near. Okay. It is one $1,000 bottle or $500 or $50 bottle, right? And those were being hand selected and carefully placed into individually packed sockets that went into what looked like a case of wine box. So we have to think about where, to Michael's point, where robots are assistive, where robots are the complete solution, and where they aren't the solution at all. And I think to think that, especially right now, I'm not saying that it can ever happen. I think we would be crazy to say that anything can't ever happen. But today, we can't even envision where a robot could do certain things, certain of the really delicate or intricate activities, because even with opposable thumbs, who wants to risk $1,000 bottle of wine,
right?
Save 15 cents in moving and shipping it? I mean, that's really the kind of economic weighting you have to consider. So, I think if we think about it in layers, instead of thinking about the great robot overlord overtaking like iRobot, not the company, but movie.
Right. Isaac Asimov.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's more where we'll land. And
Okay.
by the way, robots don't go out and apply for jobs, right? Guess who brings them to the site to employ them? People.
Good stuff there, Greg. All right, Kevin, I want you to weigh in, and then Michael, I'm going to give you the final word on this first article, then we're going to move to the next one. Kevin.
Well, we're in a nod to the Oscars. Movies are built on fantasy. So all those, I love robot movies too, but they are fantasy. And number two, robot is not the right name. They are cobots. Okay. They are there to assist humans. And as long as you keep that in mind, you'll be fine. Don't go into fantasy. I love movies, right? But I know I'm looking at a fantasy. All right. So when you're in business, understand what you see in a movie is a fantasy, and what you're deploying on robots, they are cobots. Make sure you understand how they are cooperating with the humans in order to make your business better.
Kevin, I love that. Love that. Folks, you can check out the article that we're referencing here. The link is in the chat. And Michael, before we get your last comment here, I just got to share again this image. These are some serious robots. I'm not sure where the team got this image from, but man, I'm not sure.
Yeah, one with the automatic weapon right there. Is that you? Is that your robot you want walking around with automatic weapons?
I think those are Transformers, aren't they?
Maybe so. Maybe so. All right, Michael, your final word here around robots and limitations, advantages, you name it, your final word before we move on.
Well, I think a lot of your listeners are coming from that third-party logistics community, and what makes third-party logistics so special is their agility. For this year and next year, they're receiving wiring harnesses and distributing that to an automotive plant. The next year, they're going to be doing toys. And the year after that, they're going to be doing something else. And so the changing product size, product dimensions for a third-party logistics provider, in my mind, isn't a fit because that makes them less agile. Now, if it's Pfizer, who knows their product plan for the next 5 years and knows they're going to have a consistent product in the same box forever, awesome use case for a cobot robot to help out there on the manufacturing side. But, I think last year was estimated spend for third-party logistics was $250 billion and growing. And what makes those third-party logistics providers so special is their agility, which comes with human beings working in the warehouse.
Love that. Love that. And by the way, you may know this guy. Yosh says those robots look like warehousing optimization robots. Man, there's some heavy duty optimization. I love that, Yosh.
Come in and go work faster.
Right. That's right, Greg. All right. Before we transition, I want to go back. The Girl Scout cookies were getting lots of attention. Anthony says do-si-dos all day, every day. I love
that. Yeah, I forgot about those. Those are like a good version of Nutter Butters.
Right.
Dunked in milk. Those are delicious, man. Yeah.
Now, Kamisha is a fellow trefoils shortbread all the way. So
all
Kevin,
the way, shortbread.
But
Short
Catherine,
bread, baby.
Thin Mint, #Team Thin Mint all the way. And I think this is a man that says, give me all the do-si-dos. And I'm with Michael. I love Samoas. Okay. All right. A house divided here at Supply Chain Now Home.
We know who wins in that case.
That's right. There's no Thin Mints here. All right, everybody. Thanks for chiming in. We got a lot more to get to. As Catherine says, #Thin Mint Mafia. Love that. All right. So let's get to this next story, Michael. Because we're talking, it kind of it's a nice bookend for where we started the conversation with a lot of Greg and Kevin's thoughts around SVB. So here we're talking about SoftBank. Evidently, they're on the prowl as they've been chasing down Berkshire Grey. So, Michael, tell us more about this.
Yeah, I think SoftBank, great investment fund. We always read about them, whether it was WeWork or all the different investments that they've made throughout history. And they're sort of like a leading indicator, right? They're willing to make those risky bets, and so they believe it or not, I don't know if everyone remembers, they purchased Boston Dynamics. With everybody knows the creepy dog that walks around, and then now Boston Dynamics has the stretch robot that can reach into trucks and unload. They purchased Boston Dynamics, then sold Boston Dynamics to Hyundai, which I think was a good move. But anyways, the story here is, largest investment fund one of the largest investment funds in the world continues to invest in robots. I think it is a smart play. We will see them as cobots, like Kevin alluded.
All right. So you mentioned a couple of those things that make up my nightmares, Michael. I can't remember which pizza company started messing around with robotic delivery in the first generation of that robotic deliverer. I was not going to open the door if they were knocking, even if it was the most tastiest pepperoni thick crust pizza. No, sir. All right. But kidding aside, let's see here. Kevin, let's go to you first here. Your thoughts around this development from Bloomberg. SoftBank chasing after Berkshire Grey and wanting to invest more and more in robotics.
Well, I think, like Michael said, they are a leading indicator, right? That's smart money right there. And you always got to follow that smart money. So I think warehousing, the effects of nearshoring, the flexibility with respect to those processes, the whole need to be able to deliver a product or service to a marketplace of one, that personalization, extreme personalization,
mass
that we have, mass personalization, all of that really. You need robots that don't make a mistake. Yes, you need the humans to program them, but you need to get rid of all the mistakes that humans do. So softbots with artificial intelligence that's been programmed by real intelligence of humans.
Okay, Greg. What's old is new again. I think we've kind of had a very well-rounded conversation today around robotics. Your thoughts around what SoftBank is doing, Greg?
I'm not as huge a fan of SoftBank and their investing. I think the last few years have borne out the fact that they're as vulnerable as any other investor, and investing in Adam Newman at WeWork shows what 45 minutes and a gram of cocaine can do for you. But only joking, Mossy.
Asterisk, only joking.
Hashtag only joking. But I think Berkshire Grey is a good investment, because their stock has been flagging a little bit lately, and instead of what I haven't been a huge fan of with SoftBank, which is betting huge amounts of money on unproven companies and just kind of throwing it at 100 different investments, knowing that 90 of those will fail and 10 will stagnate and 1 will be a unicorn. I think this is a much, much more reasonable and well-established company approach. And they're going to shift their approach, just like we just talked about with Silicon Valley Bank. They have already shifted their approach. Masayoshi-san has apologized for his hubris over the last couple of years, a few months ago, and I think that was shortly after he disappeared for 30 days. I'm sure he was given some re-education by the Chinese Communist Party, and he saw the light. Strangely, no, but I think it's. I think it's important to recognize that robots, in whatever form they are the future. They frankly have to be the future. Now, the decline of the human population is inevitable. By 2050, the human population will be declining. So, and we're also seeing the largest generation in the history of Earth retiring at a regular rate of 10,000 per day. But also remember that in 2021. Over 3 million extra baby boomers retired.
Yep.
And they're not coming back for the most part, right? So we have to realize that the Great Resignation was a generation that was on its way out of the workforce to begin with. And a lot of what we've talked about here, the actual or human intelligence that informs artificial intelligence, is or has is leaving or has left the workforce. And what we need to focus on is capturing that knowledge and expertise and, how those opposable thumbs get used and whatever else we need to know.
Right. That's right.
To make sure that we're enabling the technology of tomorrow, which will be in large part robotics.
Yes.
We're enabling that to solve the problems of now and into the future.
Yep.
Yeah. Remember how long it took us to reinvent concrete after the Romans?
That's right. Well, we're still chasing down their recipe. We still don't know their recipe, Kevin.
But in some
Michael,
countries haven't even succeeded yet.
Right.
Right.
So, Michael, I'll give you the final word, because if my thought here today, if folks have heard anything, it's not that our panel here today, our conversation is talking poorly of robotics. It's more about the approach, right? Whether it's robotics or technology or ERP or whatever, for those teams, those management teams out there that buy it and throw it over the fence, which is one of the things we talked about on With That Said, that approach is going to, it's not going to win, and not nearly as often enough as it should win. But Michael, speak to the approach. It's like with everything else in life. It's all about the approach. Your final thought here, and we're going to learn more about FulFilld. Michael?
Yeah, I think it's the acknowledgement that I need to be able to, me as a logistics operator, whether I'm working at Procter & Gamble or I'm working at a 3PL, I need to be aware of, and I need to know that it's going to be a hybrid environment in the future. And technologies that I have today implemented in my supply chain need to be aware of both the human and non-human that are going to be interacting in the warehouse. And if I have technologies today that don't have the ability to control a robot, or I have robot technologies that can't interact with a human being, I have a problem, and I need a plan for this hybrid environment in the future.
Yep. Well said. Ryan says,
I think regardless of what you say about technology, it's inevitable. So it doesn't really matter what we say here, right? I mean, it doesn't matter whether we're for it, or as my great uncle would say, for it or again it.
It's going to happen.
Because it's going to happen. It's inevitable. It has to happen, right?
That's
it
right.
Literally has to happen for commerce to continue. So I think that's an important thing for us to recognize, not be afraid of it.
That's right. Great point.
But to Michael's point, and to yours, well, to all of your point,
all
it
the
is
points.
How you deploy it, right?
Yes.
It is how you use it, and it is where you use it, identifying the appropriate segment to use the appropriate type of automation or robotics or digital transformation of any kind.
Yes.
Right? Because it's not one size fits all.
That's right. Well said, Greg. Well said. A lot of t-shirt-isms in what you just shared there. Truths too. Ryan says, get ready for a big shift on many levels for the human race, because it's coming. As Greg says, it is inevitable. Okay, so Michael, let's talk about FulFilld. So in a nutshell, small nutshell for the three people out there that don't know yet, tell us what you and the FulFilld team are up to.
Yeah, so we're a software company, and we're out to create the citizen warehouse worker. If you look at the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, resource turnover in the warehouse is over 40% on average. We have some customers that are well over 100% resource turnover per year in the warehouse. We have a shortage of employees in the workforce. And so we acknowledge that, again, being a software or technology company, we need to create that citizen warehouse worker who can walk in, pick up a device, and be effective. And we do that by creating that digital twin of the warehouse and using indoor positioning functionality to navigate that worker throughout their day. That way they're effective day one or day two, rather than having to job shadow for a couple of weeks.
Like it. Sounds like a sound and smart approach. We've been fortunate to have a couple conversations with you and the team. Greg, get you to respond to what Michael just described, because if there's anything that you've talked about time and time again, are we up to 4 Ds or 5 Ds that folks are avoiding? Just four.
Yeah.
Okay. But Greg,
Dark,
speak to what
dangerous and dull, right? Okay. I think, look, and this is to the point that Kevin made earlier with RPA, the days of getting away with 9-month or 1 year or 3-year implementations of technology, hopefully will be gone soon, but they are fading fast. And the experience of using technology in the workplace needs to be more like the experience of using the technology outside the workplace, right? It needs to be more like a regular consumer type solution where you can walk in, do the damn job, walk out, go to another warehouse and do the same or different damn job with different or same technology, right?
Yep.
So this notion of being able to pick something up, intuitively know how to use it in the workplace and get to work is absolutely critical.
Yep. Well said, Greg.
I think that's an important foundation of how technology will be deployed in the future. App-like is the notion that I think of.
Yep. Kevin?
So when's the last time you saw a user's guide?
Like one that we read or
what's a user's guide, Kevin?
Well, that's where robotics is. That's where we're going, right? In business, the robot's going to show up and you're going to tell it, go over there and do blah, blah, blah. And it's going to go over and do it. You're not going to need a user's guide. It's going to be part of, it will be an integral part of business.
Yep.
And just expect it and get ready for it.
That's
and be and understand that it's something that's needed for our society to move forward.
Yep. And you got to partner with the pros. So if you want to learn more about what Michael, Yosh, and the team are doing at FulFilld, check them out, fulfilld.io. Michael, if I'm not mistaken, y'all are going to be at ProMat, right? Networking, showcasing, innovating, maybe having an adult beverage or two. I don't know.
That's right.
And you would invite folks to come check y'all out at ProMat, right?
That's right. That's right. At ProMat, we're proud to be accepted into the Startup Pavilion. So we'll be showcased with 9 other startups in the Startup Pavilion over at ProMat. We'll there every day working the booth and come by. We'll be the guys in the blue vests. You'll see us there.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And folks, we got some links there in the chat, including if you want to set up a cup of coffee with Michael, Yosh, and the team. Y'all click the link and
you're gonna have some shortbread cookies with that coffee.
Nice, Kevin. Nice, right on time.
Go all as slow as you want, Kevin.
So, Michael, what's one thing that you're looking forward to at ProMat?
I'm big into AI and digital twin, and I'm looking forward to just seeing, how is AI going to be leveraged in the supply chain this year, next year, and the years after, whether that's robots, whether that's software, all the AMRs out there, the assistive cobots that are going to be there at the show. Excited to talk to them, excited to see Boston Dynamics again. I love their stuff. It's super cool to look at. So, and excited to just meet a lot of great supply chain people. It's a great conference, a lot of great thought leaders there.
Well, folks, y'all go check them out. Michael, beyond ProMat, for the handful of folks that aren't going to be able to make ProMat, how can folks connect with you and the FulFilld team?
Yeah, well, there's always the website, fulfilld.io. There's no E in FulFilld. And then over on LinkedIn, just look up Michael Pytel, Pytel. Happy to connect, share knowledge, bounce ideas off each other.
Awesome. Well, hey, on behalf of me and Kevin and Greg and the whole team, thanks for joining us here today. We've been chatting with Michael Pytel, Chief Technology Officer with FulFilld. Michael, we'll see you again really soon.
Thanks Scott. Michael. Great. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. So the big news here, drum roll, please. Yes, Yosh says for you, Kevin, they will have those shortbread cookies.
Yes.
You'll be flying in from the West Coast, probably a little bit tired. So shortbreads and a pillow.
All right. So, hey, we got a couple extra minutes. Michael is very efficient. All y'all have been very efficient with some heavy hitting topics here today. I'm going to pose Kamisha's question to both of y'all. And Greg, let's start with you. Kamisha says, what are your thoughts on the integrity of the data and intelligence fed into the AI engines? We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Greg, your thoughts?
That's important. It's not currently universal. You introduce a lot of bias by the data that you put in, which is why notions like, and I have to confess, invested in companies that do this. Notions like synthetic data are created to assure the neutrality, right? Lack of bias in the data. For instance, if you train AI to see shoes by showing it only men's shoes, it will only identify men's shoes as shoes and not women's shoes, right?
Great point.
You train it only to see white people as doctors. It won't see anyone else as a doctor, regardless of whether they're wearing a white coat. So you have to create a synthetic sort of environment and sort of cleanse that bias out when you're doing that. And I think that's something that we need to pay more attention to. I mean, ChatGPT is a great example. It can only report what it reads. I think it's important for people to recognize that ChatGPT cannot innovate. It cannot tell you anything that it can't read. Right.
Right.
And then it does this sort of internal argument. That's what that's what the pure mechanism is, and says this seems to be more credible than that. But it can be wrong, and is frequently wrong on that. So I think what we have to recognize is that we have to be careful with the data to make sure that it is, in fact, as neutral as possible. And we also have to train AI to recognize data and its potential biases. So how you teach, it's like anything that you teach. I've always said this: AI is not our master and overlord. AI is our child. And if we teach our child a certain way, it will have certain biases. If you teach a child in a very neutral way, it will have a more neutral point of view on the world, and a more open, I guess, point of view on the world. And I think that's what we have to think about.
Yep. Yeah. Kevin, your thoughts to Kamisha's question?
Well, first of all, artificial intelligence is a reflection of the human intelligence of human intelligence. So that's why it's important to not transfer the biases that humans have. We don't want to make the same mistakes that we have as we go forward. I think it's important to understand that a synthetic environment was developed specifically to train artificial intelligence is a crucial step.
Yeah.
And just like our own society, that synthetic environment also has the ability to change and improve as we move forward, so that artificial intelligence can change and improve as we move forward, and hopefully improve ourselves.
Yeah.
So yes, it's imperfect now, and it will always be imperfect unless we work together.
That's right.
To improve it.
Truly, I know it's cliche, but what's old is new again. I mean, the challenges associated with giving AI accurate, well-rounded information, feeding into so that you get good stuff on the other side. I mean, heck, 20 years ago, I was working on maintenance data systems for the Air Force. Right, garbage in is still garbage out. Nothing's different. It's just applied to a different part of technology, different part of business, different part of the innovative bleeding edge landscape. So, Kamisha, great question. And thanks for joining us here today. We'll talk a lot more about that in the shows to come. Greg and Kevin, always a pleasure. I got to throw this out there. Catherine, you mentioned Chat GPT. I got to take that really slow when I say that, Greg. Catherine says, first grad term, we had to sign an agreement that we wouldn't use AI or Chat GPT for the grad school papers. That's where we are. That's where we are, Catherine. Thank you for sharing.
So, I mean, let's think about this. So Chat GPT becomes really, really prominent, right?
Yep.
I think it was Princeton student created an AI technology that can detect that Chat GPT has written a paper, has written content. So, it kind of builds on itself. And I think that internal discernment, right? I mean, you can be filled with garbage.
Yep.
I know people, but you can be filled with garbage and have whatever is the opposite of garbage, honey, sugar, come out, right? Because I know people who were raised by terrible, terrible people who are, in fact, themselves. Their rebellion was to become a really, really good person, right? So, it's not necessarily garbage in, garbage out, but you have to have an internal discernment engine that filters all of that to say, this is my source. My source is a terrible person. Therefore, the opposite of this is probably true. Let me investigate that kind of thing.
Right. And you always have to know that you can get better. No matter where you
Yes.
are, you can always
Right.
get better.
Endless
And
curiosity.
if we have our options, I'd rather put non-garbage in. Because I bet the
But we don't
results-
always, do we? I mean, we really
don't
don't
always.
have
Right.
No.
Sometimes we're limited to the data that we have available, right?
Yeah.
It's a great
Yeah.
point,
All the
Greg.
time we are limited. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All the time we are. That's right. Okay. Greg White, Kevin L. Jackson. We got to stop here. Greg, always a pleasure. I
Yeah,
love these
likewise.
buzz conversations.
Fun.
We had 2 rock and roll guests with us here today, but Greg
I think
really
we got
enjoyed it.
9.8 pounds into that bag.
Oh man, we did. It is jam full. But thank you, Greg. Thank you, Kevin, for all the
Thank
folks
you.
that showed up here today, man. Thanks so much for all the comments. So we couldn't
Great
get to all of them.
audience.
Great audience,
Yeah.
great questions, full conversation. A lot more to come. Big thanks to Michael Pytel and the FulFilld team for dropping in as well. Y'all make sure you connect with them, whether it's at ProMat or somewhere else. But whatever you do, hey, don't just take this goodness from Greg and Kevin and Michael and ruminate on it. Man, act on it. Deeds, not words. And with that said, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, to give forward, and to be the change. We'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.